going to go ahead and turn it over to Alex to introduce a couple of things.
Yeah. All right. As we all know, Kurt's our presenter today. He owns and operates eMortgage Hawaii, and has been doing loans with a mortgage brokerage in Hawaii for 23 years. Closed 1.5 billion in loans so far. MBA in finance, Masters of Science in economics, and a Bachelor of Science in geology. If you ever have a rock question, Kurt is the guy to ask.
And we're doing lava today, so that's great. I don't know if there's going to be much geology that's talked about here, but
Very
okay.
good. And
And here you
then
go.
so I created this so that you guys could take a look at current rates that we have going on. This is updated once a week, every Thursday. This lets you download the link. If you want to link separately, having issues with it at all, you can just email or text me and I can help you get it set up. But this is something that you can download onto your home screen on your phone so that you kind of have access to rates whenever you want to check and see what current rates are looking like. Go
And I
ahead.
will mention that we normally put in, high FICO scores, good down payments. So, those are going to be the better rates. People with lower down payment, lower FICO scores, they're not going to get the rates that we're going to show on those rate sheets. So it does vary by person and their financial situation. So
And there is a specification under the rates that says what the contingencies are for those rates.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's a nice little feature, and we'll try to keep it updated once a week. And that should be enough. You're heading into the weekend, you have a good idea where rates are. And, if you're talking to your clients and you want to make sure that, you sound up to date and knowledgeable with what's going on in the mortgage market.
All right. And we're coming in our last setup webinar for the real estate professionals. So our next one is going to be for non-qualified mortgages or non-QM mortgages, and that's going to be on May 9th. And then we'll have another series announced for the next four here before that next one comes out. So we'll be able to sign you up for that. Same registration as normal. You can scan that QR code or just email me and say, hey, sign me up for our entire series so that you guys are always up to date on what we have coming up for our professional series for webinars. And then you can look at all of our previous 15 webinars on the eMortgage Hawaii YouTube page as well. That's on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good things in there, especially if there are new realtors. We talk about all sorts of types of mortgages and how what affects mortgage rates, and it's a good general understanding of VA, FHA, all the different kind of loan types. So for if you're brushing up, you just haven't thought about mortgages in a while, there's some good videos in there. And then if you're new, I think for realtors, it's a good source of getting some real base information about the mortgage industry because you have to deal with it. And if you don't have cash buyers. So, okay, so today we're going to talk about lava zones. And lava zones really only impact the Big Island. All of the rest of the islands, none of them have active volcanoes. We consider Haleakala a dormant volcano right now. Not necessarily no risk of ever erupting, but pretty low risk, kind of like Mauna Kea. Mauna Kea is considered dormant. And so the lava zones were created by the USGS, and they tried to divide the island into 9 areas, 1 through 9, based on the risk of being covered by lava. So what's the risk of your property being covered by lava? Well, if you're in lava zone 1, there's pretty good risk of that getting covered by lava in the next 50 to 100 years. Zone 9 is the least, the lowest risk, and that would be up on in Kohala. Also, the Kohala Mountain is not an active volcano, so both Kohala and Mauna Kea are pretty much no real risk. The rest of the island, other than those 2 areas, really do have a risk at being overrun by lava. And the way they created the map is based on past volcanic activity. And it affects your insurance costs, it affects your mortgage availability, the home construction safety protocols. So it has an impact. Now, the USGS never considered that the banking world would use their map. And I talked to the fellow that developed this map from the USGS when I first got here in 2003. And, he was kind of in awe that, the banks were using his maps to determine where they're going to lend and where they're not going to lend. He might have done a little more detailed work, I guess, had he known this was going to be so impactful in the lending world. So let's go through the zones. Lava Zone 1, we don't lend there. I don't have anybody that lends there in my stable of lenders. I am told that people have gotten loans from local credit unions. But basically, Lava Zone 1 is you're either near the summit of one of the active volcanoes or in a rift zone of Kilauea or Mauna Loa. And there has been repeated activity in recent historical times. So Lava Zone 1, you're putting your home at risk, significantly at risk. Lava Zone 2 is right behind Lava Zone 1. They have defined that as 15 to 25% of Lava Zone 2 has been covered by lava since 1800. So that would put it at very active, or 25 to 75% has been covered in the past 750 years. And they have mapped all the lava flows. They know the aging of these lava flows. So they know what Mauna Loa and Kilauea have done over the last several thousand years. So they have a good understanding of where these lava flows are going to go. So the relative hazard declines as the number goes up. And now there's another component to the lava zone. Not only has it been covered recently in the last several hundred years, but it's also topography. So you're going to look at this map and you're going to say, why is there a lava zone 6 that goes right to the summit of Mauna Loa? And why is there a lava zone 6 right down on the tip of the Big Island in the south part of the island? And why is there a 5 right near Kilauea? I mean, that's right close to Kilauea. And that's because these areas have high topography. So they're ridges, they're either a ridge or a mountain or something that's elevated that would keep it from being overrun by lava. Now, with that said, there was a lava zone 6 right here on the eastern tip of lava zone 2 here, and it is now buried in lava from the eastern rift eruption that went into Leilani Estates. So that is no longer there anymore because it's been overrun by lava. So even though it was a lava zone 6, it did get covered by lava. So it's not to say lava zone 6, it's impossible, but this was a topography issue. There was so much lava that entered the area, the level rose enough to cover that area. So lava zones 3, or lava zone 3, is obviously a greater distance from the active vents. And because of topography, it's only had 1% to 5% of its area covered since the 1800s. And you can go out towards Waikoloa Village, Waikoloa Resort. You can see that old lava flow there that came in the 1800s. And then right down near Kukio and Hualalai, there's another lava flow from Mauna Loa that went all the way down into the ocean in the 1800s. So lava zone 3, there's still a chance. Um, and then lava zone 4, this would be subject to an eruption of Hualalai volcano. And Hualalai volcano is presently inactive, considered somewhat dormant. But if you go up to Hualalai crater, you can still get steam coming off the crater if it's rained, which means there is hot lava, molten lava not too far below the surface that's still cooling from the last Hualalai eruption. So again, Hualalai is there's not a 0% chance it's going to erupt again, but it is pretty low. And then as we go higher up, 5 and above, these are areas that haven't seen lava flows in thousands of years. So the very low risk. Again, it's not impossible, but certainly very low risk in those. Now, the lenders only care about lava zones 1 and 2. They have not shown any resistance to lending in lava zone 3 or above. And so if you are in lava zone 3 or above, insurance is pretty much the same as it is everywhere, and loans are about the same. So I haven't seen anybody hesitate to lend in lava zone 3, although there is a chance that you could be overrun by lava in those areas. But frankly, there's nothing really built in most of these lava zone 3 areas except for over near Hilo in this area. So okay, any questions about lava zones? You can Google this map. It's pretty much everywhere, and you can kind of see whether you are in a lava zone. But we found that this wasn't a good enough way to determine whether or not you're in a lava zone. We needed something a little more definitive. I ended up getting the original maps from the USGS when they created this, and try to put together a database of what properties would be considered in lava zone 3 versus lava zone 2. And we're going to show you what some of that work that was done way back when. So to determine what lava zone your property is located in, you first need to obtain your tax map key. If you don't know your tax map key, it's simple to look it up. Now, a tax map key in Hawaii is based on what island you're on. We call that division. So if you look up here, what division are you in? Well, Big Island is Island 3 or Division 3. Oahu is Division 1. Maui is Division 2, along with Lanai and Molokai, and Hawaii is number 4. So your division is 3, and when you go to the county tax map key, they never show the division number. They only show zone, section, plat, parcel, and CPR. So what we're interested in determining whether you are in a lava zone 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever, we need to know the zone, the section, and the plat. Those are the 3 things we need. Okay. Now, lava zone 2 is only in zones 1, 8, and 9. Okay. So when you look at the county PMK map, those are the only zones that have lava zone 2 or 1. Everything else is 3 or higher. So if you're in lava zone 4, you're fine, or 6 or whatever. So you just look at your tax map key. Now, if you don't know your tax map key, simply go to hawaiipropertytax.com, click on property search, enter your address. It'll self-populate those addresses based upon the actual address that the county has, and then click on that. And then you're going to get it'll pop up this information right over here. and right at the top is your parcel number. So in this case, this client is in Zone 8, Section 3, and Plat 8. The 041 is their parcel number. These last four digits are if it was a CPR condominiumized, or somebody subdivided using CPR, you'll have a number here in these last four digits. So if you have a condo in you own a condo in a condo complex, there could be hundreds of those. But again, we only focus on the first 8, 3, and 008. Okay. That's what will define what lava zone you are in.
Hey,
Okay,
Kurt, I have a question.
Yeah.
So if you are in a lava zone 2 that's maybe close to a lava zone 3, is there any room for negotiation to kind of argue your way into a lava zone 3?
You're raising a really good point because the geologists that created the lava zones drew on a map using, his drawing pins. The thickness of that pin is about a half a mile. If you look at the pin line, it's, and put it onto a map, that line is really big.
So there
And
must be a way to argue.
We went through a lot of, well, if you're on the line, I think there is an argument because we put together a list, and I'm going to show it to you here in a minute, a list of parcels that we felt should be considered lava zone 3 versus 2 that were on the line. The way we did that is we looked at the topography. So we had the topography map on top, and when we were looking at these parcels and we're saying, wait a minute, that parcel is pretty up high, and it looks like it's on the border of lava zone 3. Should it be called lava zone 3? And we went through a lot of work trying to figure that stuff out. But yeah, I think the only arguing is if you're on the line, and it's really hard to pull that information together because you got to go back to his original maps. And I had those over 20 some years ago. It's been 22 years since I've seen those maps, but you raise a really good point. I mean, if you're way off the line, then you're not going to argue it. There'll be no arguing for it. So, but that's interesting.
Kurt,
Thanks,
could
Kurt.
I interject one thing? Frank Truesdale, working with the Volcano Observatory, came up with an overlay that goes onto Google Earth. And it greatly, you can see like every parcel on an overlay of Google Earth with that. And that could help some realtors figure out how close they are to that line.
And that map, again, we were working with the USGS way back, my sister and I, and we created this table. And this was long time ago. And it's been circulated and modified and but I have this Excel file and you can have it. It's way easier to do it from here.
Yeah.
It may not be perfectly compatible with what he has on Google Maps, but this was done with, you cannot believe how much work went into doing this. And we got down to the point, some things are obvious, based on the USGS map. And, he did a pretty good job. You can't argue with the map that much. But you did get into what Kristen was talking about when you get into a line. Yeah. And when he drew the line, he had a, marker that based on its width, you really didn't know if you were in lava zone 2 or 1 or 3. So we went through and tried to do our best. And this is the one we came up with. And this gets circulated quite a bit. Again, this is no longer mine. This got modified, but it's pretty much the same as what we generated. And so if I use that example in that previous slide, if my parcel was 3-8-3-7, I immediately know I'm a 3. It's where you get into the gray areas. Like if you look down here, this 1-1-65 and 72, is 72 really in lava zone 3? Is 64 really in lava zone 3? You could probably argue it. I don't know. But those are on the line. These are on the line. They're on the line because there's a switch. So anything that's near the line or on the line, my guess is there is some arguing to be done. You might need to bring a geologist with you to the meeting, but again, it's a topographic issue, mostly when you get down to splitting hairs. Could lava really get up here? And I remember when Mauna Loa erupted not too long ago, most of us thought that it would vent to the west, to the southwest, and come down, into Ocean View and that side of the island. It did not, but we were looking at that vent where we thought the vent would open if it were to go to the west side, and we were kind of looking at the topography of where could the lava really go this time, and you can get a good sense, if there's an eruption in Mauna Loa's crater, depending on whether you're on the east side or the west side of that crater, will dictate whether it goes east or west. But once it leaves the crater, you can have a pretty good idea where it's going to go because it has to follow, gravity just like water does. And those lava flows are, depending on how hot the lava is, they get moving really fast. I don't remember, and I don't know if you remember Leilani Estates when it first erupted. The lava that was coming out at first was from the 1940 or 50 eruption, and that lava had cooled down a lot. And so it was very viscous. It wasn't moving very much. And you could just almost stand near it, and it was kind of creeping along. But after all that got pushed out, then the new lava from Pu'u'o'o and Halemaumau came down. And man, it was moving like a river. I mean, I was stunned how fast that lava was moving. It was amazing. So anyway, that was a lot of fun. So if anybody needs this table, contact Alex and she'll send you a copy of this table. It may not be perfectly aligned with that Google map, but this is one that's been circulated for, I don't know, 20 some years now. And I know the title companies and a lot of the lenders use this. So, okay, where are we?
As well as the insurance companies.
Yeah, insurance company. Yeah, Alex comes from the insurance business, and we're going to talk about insurance because there's a not very good change in insurance in Lava Zone 2 that we're going to talk about. Okay, so why do the lava zones matter? Well, if you're in 3 to 9, there really isn't any impact to you. Lenders that are offering mortgages in Hawaii, they pretty much all lend in lava zone 3 to 9. Your insurance coverage is available. And Alex, I've never heard of anybody getting higher insurance because they were in 3 versus 9. Have you ever heard of that?
No, anything over 2 is all relatively the same. Yeah.
All the same. Yeah. I mean, then you get into flood zones and things like that. Now, obviously, you still need hurricane insurance if you're going to obtain financing. And hurricane insurance is one of my pet peeves. The Big Island has never had a direct hit of a hurricane. And I mean, we've been impacted by hurricane winds. There's no question about that. But when you have two 14,000-foot mountains protecting you, they tend to veer off. And you can look at all of the paths of all of the hurricanes that have been recorded, and they all kind of go around Big Island. I remember a Hurricane 5 coming right up on the south tip of Big Island, and it just blew itself out. It was a Hurricane 5, Category 5. It was amazing. So we at one point in time in 2004, 5, and 6, we had all the major lenders stop requiring hurricane insurance on Big Island. And then, in '08, all that changed. So now they still require hurricane insurance. But yeah, I think it's sort of like buying heated seats on a car that you buy in Hawaii. You're probably not going to ever use it. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Okay, on Lava Zone 1, we currently don't know of any insurers that are insuring Lava Zone 1, at least as far as we know. Alex, HPIA isn't insuring there, are they?
No, just Lava Zone 2.
Yeah. I don't know of anybody doing mortgages there. Now, there may be a credit union out there that you might get a deal through. I don't know. A lot of times people get loans in areas that they're not supposed to, just because the lender doesn't understand lava zones and makes a mistake. That's the only time I've seen these loans go through, is when they just don't know. And going to a national lender, if you're in Lava Zone 1, hell, you might as well try it. The appraiser is going to pick it up, but maybe the lender underwriting staff doesn't see it and doesn't know the difference between 1 or 10, and you might get it through. But that's just because somebody didn't do their job. So Lava Zone 1 is you're going to pay cash. Same thing on land loans and construction loans. I don't know anybody that's doing land loans or construction loans in Lava Zone 1. So again, you're paying cash, and you're probably not going to get insurance. So it's pretty risky if you're in Lava Zone 1. Now, Lava Zone 2, it doesn't fare a whole lot better. But Lava Zone 2, there's no FHA loans. They left, I think, back in '06 or something like that. Then VA dropped out. VA was lending in Lava Zone 2. They dropped out. Then USDA dropped out. And then finally Fannie Mae dropped out. So there are no government loans and no Fannie Mae loans. Now, Fannie Mae is one of 2 government-sanctioned entities. We call them GSEs. The other one is Freddie Mac, and so we're going to be talking about Freddie Mac. So all of these are gone, and they've kind of fallen off over the last 15, 20 years. And a lot happened after the eruption in the Eastern Rift Zone that covered Leilani Estates. I think they lost something like 700 homes in Leilani Estates. And so that's when a lot of lenders just dropped out. And then in Lava Zone 2, I don't know anybody doing land loans unless it's a credit union. I don't know of anybody doing construction loans unless it's a credit union. And I don't know if they're doing them. So, some do. I've heard some do, and I've heard others don't. But again, you can probably run a deal through if the lender makes a mistake. So if you go to a national construction lender and they don't know a lava zone from their backyard, then you might get it through. But I don't know of anybody that's doing them. So again, if you're going to buy a lot in Lava Zone 2, you're probably paying cash or going to a credit union. And then if you're going to build, you're probably paying cash unless you can find a credit union that'll do a construction loan. And I forgot to mention one thing. I'm going to go back here. There are Lava Zone 2s and there's Lava Zone 2s. So Lava Zone 2 in this area on the southwest side of the island is pretty open with some Freddie Mac lenders. But over here, if you try to submit a loan in Lava Zone 2 over here, it may get denied, even though the lender lends in Lava Zone 2. So not all Lava Zone 2 is the same. And So I've had lenders deny loans in Lava Zone 2 on the east side of the island where they were perfectly happy lending on the west side of the island. And all that is because we had a recent eruption. Are we going to see another eruption come down on the west side? Absolutely. It's going to happen. You can bank on that, but maybe not in my lifetime. I don't know. So that's important to know that there are some lenders that distinguish the east side from the west side on Lava Zone 2. Okay. So let's talk about who does lend in Lava Zone 2. And I've got one source, and I've been in this a long, long time, and we keep on top of this. Freddie Mac is the only source. It's the only GSE that's purchasing Lava Zone 2 loans. And what we mean by that, Freddie Mac doesn't actually lend directly. Freddie Mac buys loans that other lenders originate. And it has to meet, each loan has to meet certain specifications. In this case, as long as you're not in Lava Zone 1, they'll buy the loan. Now, the problem with Freddie Mac is they are not direct lenders. They rely on national lenders who originate the loan and then sell to Freddie Mac. And we're going to talk about why that's important. So the question, though, is how much longer will Freddie Mac lend in Lava Zone 2? And I don't have an answer to that. We never thought all these other lenders would leave, but they did. And I think if there's another big eruption like Leilani Estates, it'll probably end Freddie Mac loans. So if Mauna Loa erupts and it goes down the west side and causes damage to homes, or there's another eruption that impacts homes on the east side, you're at risk of losing Freddie Mac too. I don't see these other lenders coming back. I just don't see it happening, especially with Kilauea in the news all the time, those big fountains and everything. Although, that's not affecting any housing developments. So when you look at Freddie Mac, there are hundreds and hundreds of national lenders who sell loans to Freddie Mac. And they sell them every single day. So when I originate a loan, let's say I originate a loan with a lender called United Wholesale Mortgage. They're going to look at their guidelines and they're going to say, Lava 2, yeah, we can do that. And they'll let me originate the loan and they'll let me close and they'll sell it to Freddie Mac. But most lenders, even though Freddie Mac will buy the loans, they exclude Lava Zone 2 loans. We call these overlays. So when they say we don't lend in Lava Zone 2 for Fannie Mae, they just go ahead and say, we just don't lend in Lava Zone 2. Because if Fannie Mae doesn't buy it, they're left with Freddie Mac, and they don't want to be left with only one buyer. So a lot of times a lender will try to sell some loans to Fannie Mae. Maybe one or two get kicked out for some reason. They'll take that loan to Freddie Mac and see if Freddie Mac will buy it. If they don't, then they have to keep it on their books. But that's why most lenders have overlays that exclude Lava Zone 2 loans. As of this moment, I'm only familiar with 4 lenders that are still lending in Lava Zone 2. Now, they're big lenders, but now there may be more, but we haven't evaluated all 1,000 lenders out there. But most of the active Hawaii lenders we have contacted, and we have about 4. So look, it's lean pickings. It's very lean pickings. But we have some good lenders, so that's okay right now. Now, the good news with Freddie Mac loans is there is no rate penalty for a Lava Zone 2 loan. So if you find a lender that takes it, it's going to be the same rate as if it were in Lava Zone 9. Okay, so that's the good news. So it's going to, and Freddie Mac virtually has the same rates as Fannie Mae. In fact, they're identical for the most part. Occasionally I see some differences, but for the most part, it's a conforming loan. Now, the big issue here now is if the borrower is borrowing more than 80%, they have to go get mortgage insurance. That's a different company. That's an insurance company. Will that insurance company provide mortgage insurance in Lava Zone 2? So now that you found a lender that will lend in Lava Zone 2, if you're borrowing more than 80%, you need to go find a mortgage insurance provider that will also provide insurance in Lava Zone 2. So you got a whole nother set of hurdles to jump over. Now, there are mortgage insurance providers that provide insurance coverage in Lava Zone 2, but not all of them. So that's another layer of challenge. Again, Lava Zone 2, I don't have any land loans. I have no construction loans. The only lenders I can think of are portfolio lenders. That would be a credit union. You know, that's a good example of a credit union. What we mean by portfolio lenders is that they originate loans that they do not sell. So the bank will keep them on their books and they will service that loan. So there are some other portfolio lenders out in the marketplace that I haven't tested this on because I normally just go through Freddie Mac. But there are lenders that are portfolio lenders that provide some pretty strange loans, and maybe they would do it. I don't know. I've not done that research yet because, again, we have Freddie Mac. If we lose Freddie Mac, then we're going to have to take a serious look at these portfolio lenders. Again, federal credit unions are an example of one, but there may be some others out there around the nation that would consider it. Probably not as good of a rate, but that would be the only option. Okay. And finally, we get to insurance, and this is Alex's kind of, her bailiwick. She came from the insurance industry. Recently, all national insurance companies have stopped issuing new Lava Zone 2 policies. That happened in the last couple of years. And it was probably because of Leilani Estates. So there are no more national insurance companies offering insurance in Lava Zone 2.
New policies.
New
if you
policies,
have a
right.
policy and you keep paying it, you're fine, but it cannot be transferred to anyone else, and you cannot write a new policy. But you can,
Right.
for at least the national insurance companies.
And can the national insurance company notify you that they're no longer going to renew your policy in Lava Zone 2? They probably could. They're not being forced to do that. But once you're a policy holder and you're paying, they probably let it go. So for those people that have insurance in Lava Zone 2 through Allstate or State Farm or any of them, boy, you don't want to lose that policy. So the only source of insurance is the Hawaii Property Insurance Association. They're the only ones that issue new policies. Now, they are not a direct provider. You have to go through a retail insurance company. Alex is expert in who does that and who's available to do those. But the big issue that everybody should know about is that Hawaii Property Insurance Association will not cover a home that has a replacement value that exceeds $450,000. I was the last lender, and I'm 100% sure of this. I'm the last lender that received an insurance policy on a home with a replacement value above $450,000. That transaction wouldn't have happened had we not gotten that policy. We had to put that policy in effect a month before closing because the insurance provider said we're out on, whatever day it was, June 1st. And so we had to put that policy in place before the client was ever closing on the home. So now, for example, I want to give you the problem here. Let's say you find a home in Lava Zone 2, really nice home. Its purchase price is $600,000. You get an appraisal done. The appraiser says the replacement cost for this house is $500,000. That's $50,000 above the maximum coverage. There's nothing you can do. That insurance will be denied. So there is no mortgage lending. You can't get a loan if you can't get insurance. And even if the borrower was only borrowing $100,000, maybe they're going to put $500,000 down. You can't get insurance, so you can't get that loan. I mean, and it's cut and dry. If it's $451,000 replacement cost, you're not going to get a loan. You'll be paying cash. So sellers or homeowners in Lava Zone 2 that have higher valued homes, what do they do? If they sell their home, I think that insurance policy, I don't think that policy is transferable.
No.
It is not. So, I mean, maybe you can talk them into it. I don't know. But, and if they stop renewing policies in Lava Zone 2 on these higher valued homes, then you're really in trouble. So homes with a replacement cost above $450,000, if you're going to sell it, you're probably looking for a cash buyer. And you're looking for a buyer that doesn't have a problem not having hazard insurance or hurricane insurance on that property. So if it burns down, they're out of luck. So that's a big problem. And that's a huge devaluation in the value of homes in Lava Zone 2. Higher value homes. It's another thing to have a home that's worth $250,000. You got plenty of elbow room, but so Lava Zone 2 is really getting squeezed both from a lending point of view and an insurance point of view. I'm not telling people not to buy in Lava Zone 2. Properties are much less expensive, much more affordable, all of those positive things. But you got to know what you're getting into. You've got these other issues that, at least for now, are going the wrong way. We're not seeing new insurance companies, and we're not seeing new lenders. So that's kind of our story for Lava Zone 2.
Kurt, could I add one thing?
Yeah.
I have a property in Lava Zone 2 in Millalee that's oceanfront. It's listed at more than $1.2 million. They did an assessment and came up with a replacement cost that was no more than $450,000.
There you go.
There's other limitations. You cannot get any general liability through those policies. Not getting any content insurance. You cannot do STVRs. Has to be owner occupant or long-term rental. So there's other conditions as well if you can get the policy. And Lynn Katayama with Allstate.
Yep.
Yeah, she was the one that was, offering to do a policy, but we're talking $8,000 a year.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
And
and yeah,
that's not with
definitely
hurricane.
insurance costs are higher in lava zone 2. And thank you, Staffy, for that because you're living it. And the real key issue is making sure that the replacement value is properly reported. I mean, if you can rebuild it for less than 450, you got to make sure the appraiser knows that because if the appraiser just comes out with their how many square feet and it's going to cost you $250 a square foot to build it or whatever they use, then you might have to fight it, but Staffy, you just explained the whole problem all in a nutshell in your property. Um, Again, I'm not dissuading people from buying in Lava Zone 2 because you can certainly buy more home than in Lava Zone 3 and above, for the same price, but it
Yeah,
comes
I
with
think
its risk.
these homes are going to become more affordable soon.
Well, there you go. Especially for those people that attend my seminars. I'm not trying. Again, I'm not trying to poo-poo Love Zone 2. This is the grim reality of what's happened to the insurance industry and the mortgage industry. I mean, both industries have been through hell and back, and they're definitely not big risk takers for sure anymore. So the big problem I see coming is if there's another eruption like Leilani Estates, it's going to be really, really negative to Lava Zone 2. And you got to remember, if we go back to the map, um, if you look at this part of the island, just to understand what's happening here, this lava zone 1, this is called the Western Rift Zone, and this is the Eastern Rift Zone. And why is there so much lava there? Well, it's because this section of the island is breaking off. So it's settling out into the ocean, geologically speaking, and it's creating a crack. And these are, fault lines that allow lava coming up from, deep down to enter this area. So this whole area is slumping into the ocean. And, will it ever tumble in the ocean? It possibly could. I don't know. It's a slow movement, but, so you're going to have activity along here for, millions of years. And the more that Kilauea grows, it puts more weight into this area, and that just exasperates the problem of this weak bench. And this bench is weak because as lava enters the ocean, it turns to glass shards because it gets quickly cooled. And those glass shards, rain down on the ocean in a kind of a sediment. And then as new lava kind of comes on top of that, it weighs down on it, and those glass shards are not very structurally competent. So most of this island underneath here is being covered, by new lava, and it has a really bad foundation to hold it up. So the weight of all this is just going to continue pushing. So kind of an interesting thing, but. Okay. Well, that's all of the bad news I had for Lava Zone 2.
You're talking about Lava Zone 4, and just an interesting little factoid is that Hualalai and Haleakala on Maui both erupted last time in 1801, that same year.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Both
Yeah.
of them. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? That's pretty coincidental that they did. I don't think there's any relation between the two. But Hualalai is not dead. I mean, Hualalai, again, if you go up there, there's still hot lava underneath there. So there is not a 0% chance of it erupting, it's higher than that, so it could erupt, and that's right in Kona. So lava zone 4, it is 4. It has had an eruption in the last couple of hundred years. So okay, I think that's the end of it. If there's any other questions from anybody.
I just put a reminder, if anybody wants a copy of the slide deck, go ahead and throw your email in the chat and I will make sure to get that over to you as well. Or if
And
you want
also,
that.
if you want the lava zone Excel file, yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
would love to get the Excel file.
oh yeah, we'll get that to you, Stephanie. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Have a good day, everyone.